it was Groundhog's Day on Monday, and
Happy birthday.
yes, my birthday. So I'm very attuned to what Punxsutawney and his stupid cast of characters do. And so he's down in Philadelphia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when they are like, "Oh, I saw a shadow. That means 6 more weeks of winter," and everyone up here is like, "6 more weeks? That'd be great.
Yeah.
Like, we'd love it if it was just 6 more weeks."
There's always six
You
more
know, like
weeks.
there's like always 12 more weeks.
Welcome to Friends on Purpose
Where two friends talk about life, love,
and finding purpose.
I don't think have I told you this? We have a monthly group of women that get together
No.
and on the full moon, and we read like a Mary Oliver poem and like light a candle and talk about what like kind of folklorically is going on with this moon every
Hmm.
month, and what that also means like in our own personal lives. So people we just come together monthly, which
Wow.
has we've been doing it for a year now, and like it is
That's really,
it's really cool. Like
that's
it,
awesome.
yeah. So we have that monthly, and then and at that monthly meeting, this time we were talking a lot about mutual aid and like what are the things we're doing in our own communities to support those in need, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of something that is always on people's minds, of course, but is highlighted right now with folks who maybe can't leave their home for fear of
Mm-hmm.
you know ICE,
Detainment. Yeah.
yeah, detainment or
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
And but what came out of that was like another group gathering to put kits together for an organization. I should actually plug it, Maine Needs,
Hmm.
which they do such an unbelievable job. They just pass out hundreds and hundreds and thousands of kits monthly where they give people cleaning supplies or food or basic needs, whatever. And so we're putting together some kits, and so all of that is to say this is not to like pat myself on the back for putting kits together, but just that like even though it's been pretty dark and sad, that has also birthed some nice community togetherness and some
Mm-hmm.
really like heavy but meaningful
Mm-hmm.
times to say like, you okay? Like,
Right.
how are we all
Yeah.
doing, and
Yeah.
what can come from this, in where are we creating positivity or hope. So that's, yeah, that's been this week. It's just been so cold.
Yeah.
It's been so cold.
Yeah. No, that sounds awesome, Elaine.
Yeah.
I love that. Um,
Although I do actually think of you a lot when I tell people about it, because it's interesting. Me, people are like, "Oh, your moon cult," and I'm like, "It's not a cult, dudes. Like getting
oh.
together monthly is not a cult." And but it's so interesting how
Witch.
like, yeah, basically. Well, I mean, my
Yeah.
mom is always like what you get together monthly around the full moon, like I'm like, yeah,
Listen, covens,
powerful,
they are.
very powerful.
I was reading, God, I can never remember the titles of the books I listen to because they're
You
never
don't
in my
see them.
hand. I don't read them.
Yeah, yeah.
Who Cooked the Last Supper?
Oh, I don't know that.
It's a women's history book.
Whoa.
Rosalind somebody.
Okay.
Getting her name wrong. Sorry. We'll correct that in the
Yeah,
links below.
we'll link it.
But yeah, that and no nonsense spirituality
Hmm.
was very educational for me
Cool.
as a man who grew up in a very conservative
Patriarchal.
environment. Yeah, patriarchal
Yeah.
environment. Those two books were just heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time, in regard to women's history, of course, but like,
Yeah.
you talk about like people making fun
Gathering.
of the coven, but like the
Right.
power that women hold is just
Hmm.
incredible, and seeing what they've done throughout history, and the no nonsense spirituality, the author explores things like that, like
Yeah.
lunar gatherings,
Hmm.
just she came from a very toxic Mormon background, and she's now kind of just exploring all aspects of spirituality and
Yeah.
you know, and enlightenment and community. And
Yeah.
so I definitely have a greater appreciation for that. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm a little jealous. Like,
Well, we talk
ladies, come
actually
on. That's
we talk
insanely
about
beautiful and powerful. I don't know.
well
I,
so most of the women that are in this group are heterally partnered.
mm,
Um and then my partner and I are in it because we're both women, but
mm,
it's odd that we're both in it because we're a couple.
uh,
So we have this kind of funny perspective, but
yeah.
we kind of joke, but we're not joking about how like many of the male partners of this group, they're like, their husbands or their partners don't get together
Mm,
like that. And what do they gather around and what
mm,
does that look like and how do we like um how does that impact our community? Is that like if we're coming together as women and holding the community in our collective, what are the men doing that looks like that, and how do we
uh-huh,
honor it or encourage it or like
uh-huh,
we're just noting it? But I just it's yeah, it's very. I would say that probably what you did with your church group and like ways that men intentionally came together, like probably felt good in some ways because you were able to. It's important to gather with like-minded people. If they not the bad parts of it, but like being in community with fellow
uh,
men. I don't know.
no, I
No.
wouldn't say that.
What
uh,
about Owen?
oh, I mean, individual relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
Owen and I are still as tight as ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's rare. I don't,
Yeah.
and that was definitely born out of my church experience.
Yeah.
But any kind of man group within our church was not,
Toxic as fuck.
well. It just wasn't real. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
it was just wasn't, there wasn't a depth to it that attracted me or benefited me in any way. Um, so I
You
wouldn't
can
say
come to
that.
you can come to the moon group.
No, I don't want to soil that with my male
With your
presence.
man. Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it's but you could start a moon group.
I could. I
You
could
could start
start
a
a
moon
moon.
group.
Today, you're coming out.
I'm coming at well, okay, I'm really actually glad you started it that way.
Yeah.
I probably have thought about this more than any other question and any other prompt that we've given each other
Yeah.
because I think as I told you, I haven't revisited this aspect of my own like narrative history in many years, and
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to start by saying like three things that have kind of floated up while I was thinking about this. The first is that anything I say and anytime I reference like a queer experience, I do just want to be really clear that this is my experience and
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to speak for all queer people, obviously, but I just want to start there. Even though there are probably some commonalities, people may be listening and they may hear themselves, but you may not be a queer person and hear a familiar experience. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to speak on behalf of anyone except for my own experience. The second thing is that while we originally thought about this as like let me tell you my story, what I actually think it might end up being more about is less of a narrative story and more of a reflection on why I used to tell the story the way I did.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you kind of like how I came to know that I was queer and
Mm-hmm.
what it feels like maybe to come out not just once, but over and over and over again in a queer person's life or my life. And then the third thing is that I am so grateful for what my like mid to late 30s have given me in terms of a really like quiet, reflective space to do healing that I didn't even know was happening until I'm now revisiting this.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is just like a really this rethinking about this has just kind of really rocked me to my core because of how many things I've confronted that I haven't thought about in so long, and like the narrative
Hmm.
has changed so much. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to just like think through it, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be when I was originally like, let me tell you my coming out story.
Right.
So yeah, that's those are my caveats before getting started.
You had mentioned in a previous conversation, and I think you've kind of already said it, but it's helped me with my story, just in how I frame it. First and foremost, telling my story,
Hmm.
because there is a community of people involved,
Yeah.
just like you're part of a community,
Hmm.
and and yeah, just that was helpful for me in just telling, getting ready for telling my experience.
Hmm.
To be honest with myself and to kind of face the things that I went through, um, but to also be sensitive to other perspectives that may
Hmm.
have experienced the situations differently.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess I'm bringing that up because I just want to say I really appreciated that comment because it really helped me focus, and I
Yeah.
do understand like the importance and just the seriousness of it, quite frankly,
Yeah.
because it's heavy stuff and it
Yeah.
affects people,
Hmm.
and so yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. I think I also something we've talked about is it washed over me that I mean I'll also just define I currently use the word queer.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to me? It kind of means anything other than cisgendered
Straight.
heterosexual.
Right. Right. Okay.
Like even if you're maybe and this so just for me that
Mm-hmm.
I use queer, I've all like at various parts in my life I have identified as a lesbian or whatever, but I now in 2026 queer feels like a really just like broad way to describe anything
Mm-hmm.
other than that like cisgendered heterosexual
Is that
existence
a
or
is that a personal choice, or do you think that's because the term queer has changed over time?
yeah, I think the term has definitely changed over time, but it also like I don't know. I mean, I have definitely like I've been like intimate with men. I've been attracted to men. I've not. Like, it kind of
Yeah.
actually describes a just a broader
Okay.
experience
Yep.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but like that's also ever evolving and so I think
Mm-hmm.
queerness to me just means like that there's room for
Flexibility.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's fluid.
fluidity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let me just I'll just I dive in.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I started thinking about was kind of like, well, where does a coming out story even begin? So I'll just say it. I was born. And
Elaine was born.
from the day I
The
was
world
born,
got brighter.
sure, and a little gayer.
It was a cold
So
Groundhog Day.
it was. And it was I was born at 8:20 p.m. in Washington D.C. on February
Ooh.
2nd, 1988. So for any of you zodiac, noodleheads out there, you can like really do my whole birth chart and tell me about it because it's always very overwhelming to me. But I, you know, probably was like as soon as I was kind of consciously aware of like as far back as I can remember, I have had a sense that I was different, and I categorize that as knowing not only that I was different, but that it was a different that probably wasn't okay. And I don't know how I knew it wasn't okay. I mean, I'm sure just
Hmm.
it's pretty remarkable that probably since I was like 7 is when I first remembered
Wow. Okay.
feeling
Yeah.
really different. And I remember I probably at the time, because I was young and I was brought up in the Catholic Church, I think what I can remember doing, I'll call it then, I was praying
Hmm.
to be good enough at something
Hmm.
that my differentness would be okay to my parents. That was kind of the like framework that I started with was like I remember when I was really young, it was like if I was good enough at soccer. And
Hmm.
then I remember it morphing to if I was just good enough at school or if
Mm.
I was good enough, if I got a good enough job. I mean, it carried with me for so
Mm-hmm.
many stages of my life that I didn't even realize that I had this like ingrained mindset that like the different that I was needed to be made up for.
Mm.
And that starting as young as 7, like, how did I know that? What messages were coming in kind of nascently because no one sat me down and
Mm-hmm.
said, because no one was talking about it when I was 7. So how did I know that? I
How
don't
did
know.
that? Yeah, interesting.
But I do know that I think many young people, you look back and you're like, oh, that was probably a crush. Like, shout out to Mrs. Benjamino, my physical education teacher in 2nd grade, that she always talked in the third person. So she would be like, Mrs. Benjamino wants all 2nd graders to line up. And I was just like her. I was like I
That's
just
really
thought we were
sweet.
peanut butter and jelly. I was like, we belong
Yeah.
together. And then like I remember like the summer I was at a day camp, and there was this camp counselor, Natalie, who I purposely got a splinter in my toe so that I could go to her and be like, help. And she
Mm-hmm.
carried me down to the nurse. And it wasn't sexual, but it was
Mm-hmm.
intimate in a way that I wanted
Mm-hmm.
her attention, and in the way you have a crush, you're little. Um,
Mm.
it wasn't until I was probably like in 8th grade that I had the first like more adolescent intimate experience with another girl. But then here's another like moment where I knew it was so bad that I pretended like I didn't have that experience, and then I outed her to
Mm.
other people to
Mm.
take attention away from me, and that was like so deeply shameful. And then we got to like what would be more as like the traditional moment where you have to come out, which
Mm.
was like I was in 9th grade, and I had gone to a Newbury Comics, and I had gotten some posters of Ani DeFranco, Melissa Farrick, and Tegan and Sarah. And then
Mm.
I wrapped all of those posters in a Dave Matthews Band poster as my beard.
Yeah.
And if I had been smart, I would have put the Dave Matthews Band poster on the inside so that when you unrolled all of them, that's
Right.
what you. But I didn't know, and I also wouldn't have hidden them under my bed. But you live and you learn. So my mom found those posters and asked me like very outright,
Mm.
and not in a like it's okay if, but I want to know, more just like, are you?
Mm.
And it was very like scary, and I came out and it didn't go well, and it
So
didn't it
wait, why did she suspect that? And
my mom told
even
me
why
that
did you?
she
I mean, I understand why you would want to hide that, but like to me, anyone who saw a girl have a Ani DeFranco poster is like she likes Ani's music. Like no,
I think she thought, I mean, my mom told me later in my life that she suspected that I was gay when I was 4,
really, huh?
which actually was really painful for me because I was like, well, if you knew or
Mm.
thought that since I was so young, why was it so painful like 10
Mm-hmm.
years later? But I don't know, because you know what, actually,
So she was already suspicious. It wasn't the poster that tipped her off.
no, I think it was just like the moment. But
Yeah,
but I just want to like be really even-handed here
yeah.
because this is what I've reflected on a lot more. And my mom and dad, my parents, their most the most they thought about gay people in their life was formed in the 80s when they lived in
Mm-hmm.
Washington, D.C. during the AIDS
Mm-hmm.
crisis.
All right.
My mom was a nurse, and she treated AIDS patients,
Mm-hmm.
and knew the discrimination and the
Mm-hmm.
like vitriol and the like kind of ostracization and demonization of the gay community. And I still feel really hurt by like the fact that like my parents probably led with more fear than not when
Mm-hmm.
it came to me being gay, but I kind of know why. Because
Right.
there's
Yeah.
never a part of me that
They're
thinks that my
worried for their
parents,
daughter and her well-being
right,
in
right, they
that
were scared.
context. Right.
Yeah, they didn't want my life to be
Yeah.
harder, and they would say
Yeah.
that,
Mm-hmm.
but as a kid, it didn't land. I was just so I think I really only wanted one possible response, and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's fine, we love you, don't worry, we'll keep you safe. But
Mm-hmm.
in their minds, I think they were trying to say that, but the only way they knew how to like get there was kind of like, um the only way for me to be safe was for me not to be gay.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
that used to just like, that was unforgivable for me for so long, and now
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it's like, I get
Yeah.
it.
More understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. And to
Yeah.
quote one of my favorite Ani DeFranco songs, I'm not angry anymore. I'm sad,
Yeah.
because I think it really did a lot of like personal damage to my family unit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not their fault and it's not my fault. It's actually like systemic. It's a much larger
Yeah.
framework of like
Well, you had
sowing
mentioned in a
fear.
previous episode that your grandfather
Mm-hmm.
confronted you
Yeah.
about that too. Was that around the
Yeah.
same time?
Yep. It was like later that year.
Yeah.
Um, and all of it was coming from a kind of like, almost like a, we kind of like wanting to get it over with, like, is this
Mm.
true?
Mm-hmm.
Which just like, I just want to say, like, as a young person, it is such a vulnerable, tender time to be exploring feelings of like
Mm-hmm.
romance and intimacy and everything. And when
Mm-hmm.
you add this layer on where people are demanding that you come out for their comfort almost,
Mm-hmm.
or like so they can know and deal with it, it's like, it's so embarrassing and it's so shameful, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, it was exhausting. And the point was like, I
Mm.
didn't just come out to my parents once, I came out to them twice, because I went back in the closet after
Mm.
my initial time coming out. There was like such a bad, rough time that I just was like, you're right, you know what, I'm not gay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to come out like 3 years later again,
Mm. Yeah.
to them. And then again, like, you come out, I have come out, and other people may not live this way, but like, have had, you have to come out kind of all the time, because the
Yeah.
default is not,
Right.
you tell people
Right.
once and then you wear a name tag. It's like,
Right.
you tell people and you're never really sure
Mm-hmm.
if it's going to be okay or
You
not.
enter a new friend group, a new community.
New
It's like,
work, like new
yeah,
job,
yeah, yeah.
and to live out is actually not
Mm-hmm.
just, oh yeah, that's like one time thing. It's like, to live out means you constantly have to like put that out there,
Right.
assess whether it's going to be okay or not, and deal with those consequences. And sure, it's kind of a relief when it goes well, but
Mm.
even just the mental load of like wondering and not
Yeah.
knowing, or just like scanning situations and being like, are we safe here? Like, should I move there? Is this job environment going to be okay? Um, it's just, yeah, it can be kind of obviously exhausting.
Mm.
But I, it was this very painful thing with my family, and it drove a wedge between us for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it still informs how we interact with each other today. And I think, um, I I have a lot of compassion for how it happened the way it did now, and I'm like an adult who doesn't want my childhood to necessarily to define every part of me. So
Mm-hmm.
like, that's just
Yeah.
the like product of growing up. But there
Mm-hmm.
were a couple of key moments that were really healing for me that happened, like, I've realized when I think about where did I really learn to be myself, and that like, I am a person who came out when I was so young. Like, I knew this about myself for so long, and I wonder about that, because not every queer person feels that way, right? Some people don't
Mm-hmm.
come out to themselves or know how to contextualize it for so
Right.
much longer, or some people
Yeah.
know it before, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, summer camp was a place. There were these places, summer camp. I went to boarding school, so I was away. And
Mm-hmm.
often, you and I have talked about this. Like, I did live a double life for a long
Mm-hmm.
time, where like,
Yeah.
when I was away from my family unit, I was always very authentically myself in so
Mm-hmm.
many ways, not just living as a like queer person,
Yeah.
but like my sense of humor. I was like very,
You're more comfortable with yourself.
totally more
Yeah.
comfortable with myself at
Yeah.
home. I mean, away from home than I was
Mm-hmm.
at home. Then college, like I went to an all
Mm-hmm.
women's college, and it, I mean, the joke at the time in the like early, aughts when I was in school was like, you were gay until proven straight at Mount
Yeah.
Holyoke.
Yeah.
But like that gets back to that moment we've talked about where like all of a sudden I found in my friend group and my like peer group at college that I was in the majority for the first
Mm-hmm.
time, and it was like
Was that intentional to go to an all women's school?
I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
I actually I I went to a co-ed college for one semester.
Uh
I
huh.
went to St. Lawrence University for one
Mm-hmm.
semester, and I hated it so much, and I didn't find my people, and I was so devastated. Which like is so funny because my partner went to St. Lawrence for her whole career, and she loved it, and she found her
Yeah.
people there. So it's
Yeah.
like it's so personal. It's not like a gay or straight thing,
Yeah.
but when I transferred to Mount Holyoke, I was like, oh my God, it was so healing. It was so, so healing. And for me, it was because I think I had this, these 4 years where actually I, I didn't ever come out there
Mm-hmm.
because again,
You didn't really have to.
I didn't have to. I
Right.
just like
People just
people
accepted
that
you.
yeah, like and even the act of like maybe flirting with someone and not wondering if
Mm-hmm.
it's going to backfire in your face and there's going to be some sort of like terrible homophobic backlash like
Right. You're
there's
not
just
walking on eggshells, or there's no
mm-mm.
like pressure
Nope,
that's
it's
kind of
just like
looming over you at all times.
yeah,
It's
just like
just,
be you, and
yeah,
and so
yeah,
that was really amazing
interesting.
and like I said really healing. um
Mm.
and since then, I will also just say that I mean, I live as a pretty passing queer person. Like I have long hair, and while I like maybe dress more like androgynously or more masculine than like other women, I didn't get a short haircut and like
Mm-hmm.
exclusively wear like male coded clothing like sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
do. I'm a little switchy, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of pass through both worlds, which is
Sure.
how I feel authentically, but also has probably been informed by like just safety that I coming out so young. It
That's an
also
interesting, at the risk of maybe sounding uh, incorrect.
mm,
But do you think the way uh, queer people express themselves is a result of trying to, uh, and obviously you can't blanket this statement over
mm-hmm,
everyone, but like there is like the stereotypical, gay look, I guess,
mm-hmm,
or behavior,
mm.
and I think of, I don't know how to say this without
Let
sounding
me let
offensive,
me
but
let me
like,
interrupt you. I'll
sure.
answer your question. I would say obviously yes,
Like
but
overcompensating for the
mm-mm,
sake of,
mm-mm.
for this.
No, no, nope.
Okay.
Because when I look at the world,
Uh-huh.
I look at like a certain type of heterosexual person, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, wow, that's a way of being. Obviously, our clothes, our hair, our
Yeah.
perfume, our where we live, our homes, everything
It's
is a
what everybody
reflection.
does. Yeah.
Everybody does
Yeah.
it. What I think what I think you're thinking of is actually a way of being that is noticeable to you because it's outside of yourself. And so like but if you look at like even
Well,
within the queer community there
yeah.
are so many bifurcations, like so many
Mm-hmm.
intersections where you're like just why stereotypes exist where you're like I'm a lipstick lesbian, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
chapstick lesbian,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like like crunchy, like granola gay, like
Mm-hmm.
bears,
Right. Right.
like any subculture has so many subcultures under it, and same with the heterosexual community. Like like we're seeing it now with like I think it's a derisive term, but like MAGA Barbie, like a
Mm-hmm.
high femme.
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly signaling to the outside our values in how we dress. Maybe you
Mm-hmm.
wear a t-shirt with an
Mm-hmm.
upside down, or not an upside down, a the like Blue Lives Matter flag. What do you want to tell people with that? What do I tell people when I wear a Patagonia fleece,
Right.
out to dinner?
Yeah.
Like there was a time where when I was young and I was trying to figure out who I was, I definitely dressed in a way that was countercultural
Mm-hmm.
to the way I grew up, which was very preppy. I grew up, like upper middle class, on the high end of upper middle class. I went to a boarding school, like,
Mm-hmm.
and people were wearing popped collars and whatever. So what did I do? I wore like men's pants and like a white t-shirt to demonstrate that I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
wearing like a Lily Pulitzer dress and a cardigan. Like I
Mm-hmm.
tried to define my own way, but I would say it's no different than the way you dressed and grew your hair a little longer to set your own course in part of the church. I think like punk culture, there's a reason there were mohawks and like leather
Mm-hmm.
jackets and like so I don't
So that all this is to say we're squashing the idea that this isn't necessarily like uh, a
a queer
political
exclusive
statement.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Or
might be for
even,
some people, but
yeah.
I don't think like you said, you can't
But
blanket
for the
it.
most part, this is who these people are. This is how they choose
Yep,
to express themselves because that's that's the person they are.
yep.
Um,
Or it's most comfortable, or like I'll say personally, I have always felt most comfortable when I do not draw attention to traditionally
uh,
feminine parts of myself.
uh,
What might that look like? Like my boobs.
right.
I don't like I don't feel comfortable
Yeah.
when those aspects of myself are noticed or
Yeah.
paid attention to, so I will dress in a way that
Yeah.
tries to minimize that part of myself. I imagine it has to do with actually like not less body dysmorphia and
Mm-hmm.
more I don't like male attention in that way. Some
Mm-hmm.
people do, and that is like right on. And there are
Mm-hmm.
probably some queer people who do, and want
And
attention
that's
in that
just
way.
fine.
And that's totally fine. That's
Yeah.
totally fine.
We
Um,
it reminds me of me and Jude are watching Traders together.
I've never seen it.
Traders. It's a new reality show.
Okay.
Well, new. It's this fourth season is coming out, but it's one of the things I love about it is that everyone dresses to the nines,
Oh
but
yeah.
they all dress according to their kind of personalities,
Interests
right?
or yeah.
Yeah, but it's heightened because they have a budget, right? And
Right.
but the host Alan Cummings,
Oh yeah.
um, he's over the
He's
top. Like
totally.
you can tell he has so much fun with it. And
Yeah.
he actually just wrote a book
I saw that.
that I want to check out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with him being able to express himself in the way of fashion. Don't quote me on
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but there is that side of it that intrigues me, and I want to know more
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I think you make a good point of me growing my hair out, and
Yeah.
all these little acts of rebellion
Right.
against kind of the church norms.
Yep.
But there were, I mean, I'll be honest, there were moments to where I just didn't have the energy, and I just
Totally.
decided to dress down because it's like, fine, I'll conform. I
Yeah.
just don't want so and so to pick on me this time around,
Right. Totally.
So yeah, I mean,
I probably, if I were less concerned with, quite frankly, like what my mom thinks of me, I would have
yeah,
tried out way more haircuts or like
yeah,
just like gone in a different direction, but like
yeah.
fear of being whatever, judged or in trouble or like just like having to answer about it probably stopped me from it. And then you develop a sense of self that becomes like
Mm,
comfortable or whatever. Also, I will also say like, I forgot to mention this. When I was so there were two television shows that came out when I was a young teenager. And that was Queer as Folk and The L Word. And
mm,
those shows were an absolute they were foundational to me understanding that there was a world outside of the one that I was living in, which was like fear and shame and like you had to hide it. And
Yeah.
like I would watch these shows surreptitiously, again, going to Newbury Comics. Shout out to Newbury Comics because it's where I
Mm.
bought like my gay posters and my gay DVDs. And they're not a gay shop.
Very.
They just like were a,
Yeah.
you know, a comic book shop or
Okay.
like whatever.
Yep.
But I bought the box DVD set of the L Word and I would like watch it on
Mm.
my laptop, like under the blankets. And like, it wasn't a sexual thing. It was like an anthropological thing where I was
Yeah.
like, oh, there are people out there living out and there's a whole culture
Yeah.
that I can be part of when I get to be a little older. And that was so, so important. Queer
Yeah.
as folk, same thing. It was just like, gay people living their lives. And like, of course, it was like dramatized or whatever. And you look back on it now and you're like, oh my God, that did not hold up.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was super important for me to see representation of like what it meant to live out and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was really important.
Mm.
And the last thing on my like coming out journey was like that has like transformed me is I don't know how it happened. And it probably speaks to my personal theory on like our energies that we put out, like our kind of energy field that exists
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit outside of us.
Mm.
I always had gay friends and it was
Mm-hmm.
a secret. And
Mm.
sometimes we didn't even come out to each other for a little bit. But I have friends that I've known for almost my whole life, and when I look at the roster, it's like, oh, how did how did I get like kind of like attracted to this group of friends?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily seek it out consciously, but it's like, what is it in queer people that we're like found each other
Yeah.
before
Yep.
we even came out. So that was really interesting. And those friends became lifelines. And
That is interesting.
yeah,
Uh,
really from a young age.
I mean, we became friends, so
Well, you know what that means.
I'm gay.
Yeah. Well, as I always say to Eric, I'm like, well, if we're looking at stereotypes, it's like he loves craft beer. Um, he wears backwards hats.
On paper, I'm gay.
He loves women.
on
He's
paper,
kind of a lesbian. And
on paper, I'm a lesbian.
yeah, on paper you read as you're coded
I don't drive a
queer
Subaru yet,
queer
but
lady. Yeah, but your car is kind of gay too. It's kind of like I don't
well,
know. It's practical.
I drive a Toyota Corolla now. So
Oh my
what
gosh,
what does that
what?
say? Yeah,
That
yeah,
means I don't know what that. You drive a Corolla now?
yeah,
I didn't even know Corollas existed in Vermont. Like, can you get around?
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
doing
doing all right.
fine. Yeah.
Okay. I
Honestly,
mean,
it came down to affordability,
yeah, again, real
and
practical.
we needed something quick. So that's
Yeah.
where how I ended up there. And
That sounds very
sometimes
I mean like oh, and the other thing you do is wear really practical shoes.
I do now.
Yeah, lesbian.
I t-
So I don't know. So like all of that is to say, this was not as linear or as like I said, like one two punchy as because you know what I left out of all of this is I think I was telling you like the parts that I used to tell of this story were like I
mm,
focused on a lot of like about like what how I was wronged
mm-hmm,
and how like the most painful moments and most shocking moments and the parts that just like engendered a response from people that validated how painful
mm-hmm,
this was
mm-hmm.
and I don't those parts don't feel as close anymore. I feel further from them because I
Do you look at that as a mistake or just as
no
growth?
growth. It was
Uh-huh.
I mean almost as a like it's how I was validating myself or like how I was learning to
Mm-hmm.
cope with something that just for anybody is heavy, which is like you share something vulnerable about yourself and it doesn't
Right.
go well,
Right.
but that it wasn't through fault of like someone being bad, but it's because like the world kind of
Mm-hmm.
encourages that to uphold values or norms that are
Norms.
so
Yeah.
restrictive, yeah,
Yeah.
that like if you fall outside those lines, it's just like that's the point is to
Mm.
shame you into conformity and Yeah,
Mm.
I think it's just a natural part of getting there, and those things were really painful, and they did shape um my early understanding of self that made me wonder and push to be like, I would never want to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be ruled by this limited narrow sense of like what acceptable is, or what it, like
Mm.
that the possibilities are so much more limitless. I mean, yeah, limitless.
Mm-hmm.
And that I can lead the life I want to lead, free of kind of worrying about whether I'm following. I defined my own sense of like morality and values, and in so many ways, it's not like we come back to this all the time. It's no different than what you did, you
Mm-hmm.
know, which was like
Yeah.
live in accordance with like
You're
listening to yourself.
you're talking, and I'm like, this is my experience.
Yeah,
Like it has the same um, structure.
totally.
Uh, it's interesting, especially when you talk about shame.
Mm.
And I wonder, like you're talking, and it makes me wonder, like, where do you think shame comes from? Is it like societal, or is it an observation we see, like in comparing ourselves to our outside world, or is it like something that's put on us? Because
I
so
think
like
it's put on us because I
yeah.
don't think you're born to. I don't think when.
Well, what confuses me is, and I might get a little explicit here, but like me growing up, a young boy,
Yeah.
I remember like masturbating for the
Mm-hmm.
first time
Mm-hmm.
and feeling very shameful about it. And to
Mm-hmm.
the point where I would like pray to God,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I promise I'll never do that again, and having a lot of shame around that. But never had I ever been at least deliberately taught that, you know. My parents taught me
Except
about
that, except that that is a huge part
it
of
is, but
church.
I never heard that.
Are
Nobody
you
ever.
sure?
Yes, nobody
Hmm.
ever told me that.
Hmm.
Uh, Outside of my parents at that age, sex was never talked about.
Hmm.
And so somehow, and again, I could have just, subliminally clued
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
But like, to me, I still wonder, well, where did I get that idea?
Hmm.
Because,
Well, that's how what I wonder. Like nobody
yeah,
ever, when I
yeah.
was
Like
young,
you're talking about what you're 7 years old,
when I
and
was
all of a
seven
sudden
years old,
you're like hyper aware
yeah, no one
of these
said,
things.
no one explicitly said it to me as a young person, but I could imagine
Yeah.
if somewhere in myself I understood that what I was seeing everywhere is not how I felt,
Uh
then
huh.
that must be bad. So
Yeah.
maybe even just the absence of like, you don't see people masturbating in
Yeah.
public all the time. It's a private thing. So you have no context whether or not
Yeah.
other people do that.
I remember thinking I was a bad person, like it was a terrible thing to
Yeah.
think these thoughts and to yeah. So
I had
yeah.
this experience when I was um 8. I just remember it so clearly that I woke up in the middle of the night and I must have been worried or scared about knowing that I was different.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out of bed and I went down to the kitchen and I got out our like big knife. And I thought about hurting myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I have never been a person who struggles with suicidal ideation.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had that experience before or after, but for whatever reason, I was so afraid of being different and I still didn't have a name for it yet that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to be different. And so like that's shame because we get kind of shown the lane that you like should run in, and if you feel just by observing that you're like, I think I'm in the other lane, that's scary. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it can happen just by, yeah, observing the world. So I guess I don't know. where it comes from, and I think everyone struggles with it in different ways, shapes, or forms. But that I don't think we're born to be ashamed of ourselves. I do think that we learn it by watching,
Mm.
and that even things that are unsaid are pretty powerful. Like
Mm-hmm.
just in like your nuclear family, like how do they dress? How do they talk? How do they like you
Well, I
start
think that's exactly
compare
right.
like you said comparing
What,
yourself.
yeah, what de-escalates shame and what kind of dethrones it or sucks the power out of it is talking,
Mm-hmm.
and is calling it out.
An
Um,
openness or
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and discovering that it's not shameful,
Right. Right. Right.
uh, and hearing that from someone else,
Yeah.
and surrounding yourself in a community of people who share that similar, you know, value, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's it's it's amazing how much less it's like I look back at my church experience, and I'm, you know, at least mentally 5 years out of that, right?
Yep.
I think physically I'm 3 years out, but like
Mm-hmm.
these last few years, the absence of shame is like astounding to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of made up problems
Mm-hmm.
that I endured mentally
Mm-hmm.
uh, was overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And to look back at it now and to see it's like that was just a made up problem. That was just
Yeah.
that was I was literally struggling, like there was no reason for me to struggle that way. And not
Yeah.
just in like these, you know, these ideas of sex, but like
Yeah.
just
Morality
morality,
or
shame,
yeah.
wherever shame can creep in, you know, it can come in many ways.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we talked about gender roles, like
Yeah.
just in my own ability as a father, you
Yeah.
know, uh, I
I
felt those pressures and those shames, that shame, and I just didn't have to.
yeah.
I just wasn't in a world where it didn't exist. You know,
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I had to do a lot of work around like decoupling my sense of self with like approval
Mm-hmm.
from others, but namely
Mm-hmm.
like my parents. And it was really painful, hard work because I didn't realize it at the time, but like I think, and this is very normal, but I think it got kind of extrapolated out to the nth degree. Like my mom and I had a very close relationship, but it was kind of enmeshed in where we both
Mm-hmm.
viewed each other as like extensions of self, and that was really
Mm-hmm.
not healthy because when I
Mm-hmm.
would strike out and do something on my own, my mom would almost feel it
Mm-hmm.
like she was doing it or like
Right.
I was doing it to her or something.
You taught me that early
Mm-hmm.
on.
Did I?
Yeah. Well, you had called me out on something I was expressing about Samuel, and this was earlier on
Oh my
than
gosh.
his teenage years,
Wow.
to where I was seeing how I was viewing Samuel as an extension of
Of
myself, a
yourself.
reflection of myself. So, so you called me out on it,
Whoa.
and not like in a
Yeah.
confrontational way. You just
Yeah.
kind of just mattered, and then I was like, oh
Oh.
no. And he
Again,
was
that's
probably,
it's so natural though,
yeah, and I think
because
it's pretty
truly
common
he
for a parent
isn't, yeah,
child
like he
relationship.
is of you. Like it's not
Yeah,
like it comes from a bad place,
right.
but it's like super power. I mean, my like shout out to my therapist who was just kind of like, like you're because I'm a people pleaser, you
Hmm.
know, I was like everything that my parents didn't like that I was doing was just like weighing on me as if like there was this morality like, oh my God, I'm a bad person because I'm doing something
Hmm.
that like is different than what my parents want. And that became so heavy and so unsustainable, and it made me physically unwell, and it just was
Hmm.
like, and oh, I also wanted to mention, and like I hope this isn't an overshare, but like you and I have talked about like changing bodies and like gaining weight, and like for
Hmm.
me I had to dissect also like
Hmm.
why did I think, and I think this came from your church and this came from my parents, like gaining weight actually like lived in me as a moral issue. Like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
bad person if I
You're a
gain
glutton.
weight.
You
Yeah, I'm
have no self
lazy. I'm
control. Yep.
totally, and that
Yep.
like the literal weight of that was just also too much. And it was like that came from my family. Like, and it's amazing how actually the only thing we can do is reframe those things in our mind for a way that
Mm-hmm.
aligns with like ourselves, and that
Mm-hmm.
giving ourselves permission to like think about it differently. And so like what you were saying about the lack of shame in the past few years has it's been so noticeable. I also
Mm-hmm.
have just made this decision in the past, I'd say like 8 years, to kind of relearn for myself what are the things that I will give power to and the things I won't
Mm-hmm.
give power to, and that
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
it's really like transformative, but truly like the sad thing is we're the only ones that control that. When you're upset or when you're frustrated or when you're like carrying that heavy load, it's so tempting to look at all the reasons why, but
Mm.
at the end of the day you're like, I'm the only one that has the power to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
And if other people don't subscribe to your like value system, it's still not your problem. Like you still have to be
Sure.
like
It does help to put yourself in an environment where that's not always
agency.
present. Yeah.
Totally, yeah, where you're not
Yeah.
constant. Totally,
Yeah.
totally. But it's hard work because it's
Mm-hmm.
so deep in you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because of course I want my parents to be proud of me.
Mm-hmm.
Of course I do. I'm never
Mm-hmm.
not gonna want that. And I'll tell
Mm-hmm.
you, it was my birthday recently, and both my parents sent me birthday cards, which are so sweet. And both of them, I mean, it was like the Hallmark card being written, but my parents take a lot of time to pick out birthday cards. They like spend
Yeah.
hours looking through cards, like days going to CVS and looking at it. It's like very
Yeah.
sweet. And both of them chose cards that were like, we're so proud of you. And I think it's so much easier for them to say that through the
Mm.
Hallmark card, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's really heavy and complicated because I'm living a life that looks different than what they would have chosen for me. But over
Mm-hmm.
the past few years, like one beautiful thing that has happened is like we both, but both sides, like parent and child, have decided to continue to show up even though it can be scratchy and feel different, and both of us wanted it to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us wished
Yeah.
it had
Yeah.
been different. And I
Yeah.
named that for my mom. My mom was kind of like, you wish it, like I had reacted different or not said these things. And I was like, yeah, and you wish I had been different. Like, isn't that kind of what we're all doing here, is dealing with
Right. Right.
expectation versus reality? And
Yeah.
that like kind of just continuing to show up and love each other as we
Mm-hmm.
are and in our family unit is, for me, that has been the most challenging and important work, because then I can see it and do it in other ways, over and over again. It, like in my primary partnership and my friendships, it's just like step back a little and be like, well, why do I assume that the way I wanted it to be is the right way? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
The only way it is the way it is. And like
Mm-hmm.
you either get on board or you're like, doesn't feel good. And whichever
Yeah.
way you choose is fine. But it's like, yeah, just like wishing for it to be different is such a energy drain. And I
Yeah.
can only say that after draining my own energy for like 35 years, and now like 38 years in, I'm like, okay, this is the way it is, and I have worked hard to be able to get
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
powerful. So anyway, that's kind of, yeah, that was the whole of it.
I love this podcast, Elaine.
I love you.
I
And
love
I just, this
that
is
we
what,
get to do this.
why, yeah, like this is why I think we have always found so much in common, is because, as we will say a million times, like we have come to the same place by very different paths, but
Yeah.
like we
Yep.
find so much similarity in those
Mm-hmm.
things, which is so helpful
It's
to
all very
remember.
relatable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
that, like we're all struggling with these types of things, and that our
Yeah.
unique flavor and brand is probably different, and that's what gives it color and like meaning to each of us. But that like
Sure.
extending
But
that.
ultimately, we really aren't that different.
Mm-mm,
I mean,
mm-mm.
us too, but like humanity. Like
Yeah,
we're all made of the same stuff.
yeah.
And no one's really.
Stardust.
It's really that different.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
in the best sense. Uh,
yeah.
I think we
So
just saved the world.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Yeah. Send this out. Send those,
Yeah,
put it on loudspeakers.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we probably come to the same conclusion that almost everybody comes to when they think deeply about this. But here we are. It's our version. And
yeah.
for those
That's right.
friends who are listening, thanks.
Yeah.
Um,
So I guess that
yeah.
means
Gotta land the plane.
we gotta land a plane.
I'm reading about, I'm trying to remember my dreams more, much
Hmm.
to your chagrin. About,
Oh no, I had a
what?
dream.
Tell
Okay,
me.
and
You
I'm
know I
not
want
gonna
to
tell
know.
you.
I want to
I don't.
know.
Okay, I don't remember. So, we telling dreams is so boring, right?
It's so fun.
Nobody's interested. But
I think it is.
I did have a dream. So I often fall asleep to a
Audiobook.
show that I'm
Oh,
watching.
okay. Yeah.
So I'll have like one earbud in, and I know
Wow.
that's a really
Great
bad
sleep
thing to do
hygiene.
when you sleep, but that's it helps me sleep sometimes.
Okay.
I was watching Dimension 20, which is Dropout. If you haven't watched it yet,
Yeah.
it's their D&D
Okay.
games
Okay. Okay. Okay.
that they record.
Yeah.
Right? I've never played D&D before. To me, D&D would be my preference for like a lunar gathering.
Yeah. I mean,
If I could play D&D with my bros,
why don't you do that?
because I don't know how to play D&D for
Oh my
one.
gosh. I can teach you. I played
And
Dungeons and Dragons.
none of my guy friends, I don't think would be into it.
They would, Eric.
I
Do
could
it.
ask them, but
Do it.
anyway, it's the latest. I forget what it's even called, but it's this great group of comedians.
Tell about the dream. I don't care about the show.
I'm just telling you about the show because it integrated itself into my dream.
Okay.
Like what they were saying were what
Was the
people in
dream.
my dream were saying, and it was probably the most wholesome dream
Oh.
I've ever had. To
Was
where it
it?
was just, it felt like what I would imagine heaven to be like. To where you're just spending time with your friends, and there was just like this overwhelming sense of like wholeness and like friendship and beauty and
Eric, you had ego disillusion in your dream.
what is that?
That is where it's a true experience where, and it does happen often while you're sleeping, when your physical body is at rest or your physical consciousness is gone but your consciousness is still there, and you
Mm,
have ego dissolution where you feel less in your own body and more connected to the greater whole of
mm-hmm.
humanity, other souls, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And what you're describing, while is incredibly unique to you, and I'm glad that happened to you, it is a very common experience that is notable in the dream world, where you can more easily access that like shared feeling of unity, love, oneness with something bigger than yourself. And it's actually, I believe, you believe whatever you want to believe, but I believe that it is actually, that's a gift that was given to you so that you can like feel that and try and integrate it into your waking life more.
Yeah,
Somebody gave you that from
I
not
I
here.
believe. I
Yeah.
believe. Um, Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Actually, dream work uh,
I
was
know you
something that
did some dream
was
work.
very impactful for me in therapy.
Yeah.
That helped me get over some major obstacles
Yeah.
through my own personal therapy. So that checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love it.
but it also just made me
Want to
love
play
that group
D&D.
of comics, like because they're so wholesome and they're so inclusive and it just makes me proud to see that somebody is putting content out there like that
Yeah.
on a very high level. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Not like our hackery here.
no, actually, we got a really sweet comment from a good close friend of mine.
I know.
She cried at the last episode
Oh my
because of
gosh.
how much she said it helped her. So
Wait, which one?
that felt really good.
That's so
My friend
nice.
Sarah.
No,
Hi,
no, not which
Sarah.
friend. But hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. Which episode?
The one where I talk about Samuel, reliving a
Oh,
moment in our
yeah.
life. Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
So
We really have to cut this off so that our listeners can go back to their lives. Or just if you're still listening, thank you. Should we do it again?
yeah,
Okay, good.
I love that. Elaine, you're the
Yeah,
best.
you're the best. I love you so much.
I love you too.
Okay, I'll talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye.